already. Let's hit it again. There we go. Okay, we're good. Good. So F, C is the fifth note in F. If you've seen this before, you know the deal. Each note I'm writing is the fifth note in the scale of the note previous. So F, C is the 5 in F, G is the 5 in C. This is the order of fifths. C, F, C, G, D, A, E, B. So you start with those. This is the 5 of that. 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 If you're not sure about that, write these scales out, pause, come back to this video. Not only is, so if any one of these, from any one of these notes here, the note to the right in the order of fifths is the 5. The famous cycle of keys, cycle of fifths. Or if you're a jazz guy, you call it the cycle of fourths because of this, because when you go back the other way, the note to the left is the 4. So F is the fourth note in C. C is the 4 in G. G is the 4 in D, and such and so on. So if you start from any note, that being the 1, that's the 5 immediately to the right. That's the 4 immediately to the left. And that is true of all these over here. And when we get out to the ends, we'll start getting into the sharps. That's another story for another time. That's another story for another time. Okay, that is true, but we'll talk about that later. This is the thing we want to get into right now. 1 to the right is the 5, to the right is 4. So the next thing you want to do is underneath each, you write that note's 6. And when you're talking about chords, the 6 is a minor, the relative minor. That's the main thing we're talking about here, is getting these relative minors in to get these numbers down. So in the key of G, E is note number 6. E minor is the 6th chord. It is the relative minor. Don't worry about the Y's. This is just the whats that we're dealing with. So 6 minor. I use minuses sometimes. Sometimes I use M's. It means the same thing. A minor is a relative minor there. This is useful because this is just the math that a lot of songwriters use, because a lot of songwriters use it. It helps us to know that because it's in a lot of songs. B minor and all that. You see what's going on there? So that's the 6 of that one. That's the 6. That's the 6. That's the 6. F sharp minor. C sharp minor. We're going to write this up a bunch of different times. There's 4 or 5 videos similar to this on my channel already and other channels. It's not just mine. So there's a 6. There's a relative minor there. So everything's got this 6 chord right underneath it when you look at this. That's where this is useful. So it's, yes, it's the notes, but the chords are built off of the root notes, and that's the numbering system that we happen to be using. There's the thing. So if I'm on G, G is the 1, E minor is the 6, C is the 4, D is the 5, but like we were just talking about, underneath the 5, the relative minor of the 5 is the, count on your fingers, G, A, B. That's the 3. If we're in the key of G, C is the 4. Relative minor of the 4 is the 2. So I go that way, I get the 2. That way I get the 3. That's the 6 diatonic major and minor triads in each key. That's all that means. Diatonic just means that's you're only using notes from the scale, the major scale of the key that you're in. If you're in the key of G, you're usually talking about G major. You should be, or you have to say otherwise. You're just going to say, if I'm in the key of G, that's what these notes all give me. E minor, B minor, A minor, C, D, like that. So we were just using that triad video. We're just using the triads just now. G6, 3, 2, relative minor, the 4 is the 2, relative minor, the 5 is the 3. That's just how it lays out. I am only the messenger. I did not make this up. Don't be mad at me. But that's what we end up with. And that's what happens here too. You usually don't have to get this far out for, like, you don't usually do things in F sharp major. And most of us just playing guitar songs, Tom Petty songs, stuff like that. That's impractical to know that, because you just don't need to know about the key of F sharp major or the key of B flat major. You're usually just playing it. You might have it on a capo. You might have tuned your guitar one way or the other. It's just not information you want to clutter your head with. You should be spending your time rocking chords, jamming songs, and just playing. That stuff is not as useful. This stuff, when you work in these chords in the middle, that's a little bit more useful because there's some physical things that you want to know when you do those chords. And that's why knowing this can be useful in a lot of different ways. And that is why I usually go, here's chord changes that you want to know. 1 4 1 5 1 that we did a minute ago. 1 5 6 4 and all of its permutations, and 2 5 1 in its permutations. We were doing that earlier today in a country song. We did a 2 5 1 in that David Allan Coe song that You Never Even Call Me by my name. We did the 2 5 1 and the 2, and there's lots of that. You don't always do the 2 as a minor. That's a major jazz type of thing, a big time jazz convention, just like these things are in rock and pop. Cool.